they've got to have people that can. You got to have people in the dealership that can handle that situation and take that down a notch. Because these days you don't know what might come of that. I mean, back then it was just, hey, but there might be a fight out in front. Yeah. Now the guy comes back with a freaking automatic weapon, and where are you?
Welcome to the Old Guys No Shit podcast in Dealercast Studios, where we bring together decades of automotive knowledge, all together in one place. Here's your host, Old Guys Who Know Shit.
Hey, what's going on, Dealercast Nation? I am Jason Harris.
And I'm Rob Mudd.
Larry Bruce.
And this is Old Guys That Know Shit podcast.
No shit.
We may have anger management issues.
I'm sure we do.
You guys can't even wait for me to do like a small intro. You're so excited to get into today's topic. You're like, I'm angry and I want to talk about it.
I'm an angry man.
Get off my lawn.
Okay, well, if you didn't know, now you know. All right. Today's topic, all right, is safety in the showroom, protecting dealership staff and customers. We got a few different angles we're going to take this from. It's
just
funny.
A few? Because I think there'll be more than that.
I don't know, guys. I think I got to start this off with a story because I think all of you guys have a story of this. I know I have one, and it's funny. We were thinking about them. We were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, right? And out of all the things that we train for and we coach for and we build processes for and stuff like that, it's like, this is the one that I don't think I could tell you if any dealership I know out there actually has something put in place, you know, to deal with an angry customer or de-escalate a situation or something like that. But like, let's start with a couple stories that either you were personally involved in or you heard of. Larry, I'll start with you.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of stories of angry customers who, from all, I think I have too many of those that of course, right? But I mean, I think, you know, the worst, I remember back in the late 90s, it was probably 90, I guess, 8-ish. You know, a friend of mine who was a salesperson for Mike Calvert Toyota. It was the first time I'd ever heard of a salesperson going on a test drive and actually not coming back, being killed.
Holy cow.
You know, the two guys mugged him, took his money, killed him.
Wow.
You know, that you know, I guess you started to take a step back and start thinking, when you go on a test ride, you're pretty vulnerable. I mean, and you think about it, if you're a lady salesperson, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's got to be there's got to be some serious thought around that. I think I would have to, yeah. You know, I mean, I've had drug dealers come back to the dealership, you know, because we didn't give them the car with a gun. You know, I mean, keep in mind you're in Texas, so
Everyone's got one.
Everyone's got one.
You don't come back. You never come back with a gun. You better bring some guns because there will be other guns. I think there were five of us in the showroom that were carrying that day. So a gun's not going to do you a whole lot of good. So there's those instances that I've been involved in, or I've seen and or been personally involved in. But, you know, it's not something when I first got in the car business, no one ever sat down, let's have a safety course.
Sure.
But is it necessary, or is it something, I shouldn't say necessary, is it something you should have today? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also you got to check why they got upset.
Well, yeah.
Well, no. I think that's a good point. I mean, it's a good point because you're trying to
got busted for finance irregularities out of DC.
Yeah.
What just happened? What's their name?
Lindsay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They that's what they did, and they had a lot of 88% of their customers that came in left with a different price than they came in on, and so you're gonna have people pissed.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you've got, it's rare that happens today. It happened a lot more back in the 80s and the 90s, but I mean, but it's rare that you see that happen today. There's a lot more regulation, a lot of regulation we brought on ourselves. A lot of it I might have been personally involved in. I don't know. You know, so, but, you know, those types of things, you know, intentionally deceiving a customer, it happened a lot in the late 80s, in the 80s, in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It stopped happening late 90s, early 2000s. You just don't see it as much anymore. The intention, the just blatant.
Rolling back odometers.
What are you talking about? I mean, was it not blatant when we were charging $45,000 more for a Bronco?
But you knew you were paying it. You didn't like it. You knew you were paying it.
That's true.
Right? I mean, it's like the $100,000 over for the G-Wagon.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, you can ask it, and I can also say no. So that's one thing. But to go in, back in the day. You guys might remember Cal Worthington, right? Mm-hmm. Cal Worthington Chevrolet was a big deal in Houston during the late 80s. And the process was, this was the first time I'd ever run into the process of liners in the car business, right? And I was amazed to watch this happen. So the liners would go out, they would greet the customer, they put them on a car, they'd bring them in, and they would turn them over to the closer. The closer would go to work, just wringing them out, doing just ungodly things that you just don't want to talk about because you don't want to believe they're true in the car business.
This is where I feel like we need to insert a scene from Suckers.
No, or from Live Hard, Sell Hard with Jeremy Piven. I'll tell you, there's a whole story about that. But the closer would do his thing, and then the sales. This is the first time I'd ever heard of this. It was crazy. But the F&I manager was paid on a thing called upgross. So how much could he add to not just the front end, but the back? Not just the back end, but the front end. How could he change the price of the vehicle?
Of course.
And so. Literally, and then you look at this and you go, okay, so none of us should be shocked why we got regulated. Okay,
no,
we shouldn't because we did it to ourselves. So that part doesn't have that. That's what I mean by blatant, just flat ass. We don't care, right?
Well, no, I'm with you because I think when we think about angry customers, right? The first dealership I worked at had a very clearly defined culture of money. All right. I mean, the funny thing is, you know what's funny? It was probably almost 3 years after I got in the business, I actually heard about customer satisfaction, surveys. So I don't know what this dealership was doing, but I can guarantee you none of their customers ever got one. All right. Because I can 100% guarantee because I didn't even know they existed. And it was a clearly defined objective, was a process that you went through, closers and so on and so forth. And I'm going to tell you, it was very, very common to see very angry customers. And I just kind of thought that's how it was,
right?
But now I kind of think back to it, right? And it's dealing with angry customers, at the core of it, why are they angry? And to your point, it was, I think there was a lot of culture back then that created that, but no one ever taught me about having to de-escalate a situation. Right. In fact, actually, I remember one, and this is not even a customer. This was actually the owner. Saturdays, he'd bring a big gulp in. It was and everybody knew what was in it. The guy didn't even have a driver's license. He owned a dealership, but he didn't have a driver's license.
Oh, yeah.
All right?
I know
you knew there was a fit
chauffeur.
Yes. He definitely had a chauffeur. All right? And so, newest guy, I'm with in a few weeks. I'm the green pea. All right, the guys in the tower give me a stack of paperwork and says, go upstairs and tell Bill that these are unwound. I don't know what the hell that means. And I'm sure, I'll go do that. I'm going to go find out. So I'm just all right. I was there. Maybe they need, I don't know, I'll go upstairs. I go upstairs, through the hall. I go into his office and his lady and I say, hey, Bill, these need to be unwound. I don't know what the hell that means. He grabs them, puts his glasses on. He goes through them. What the babe? I mean, it was just the string of profanity that came out of his mouth for a 20-second period. And he grabs his keyboard. Remember, now they still had cables. They were connected to shit. Grabs it. The monitor falls on the ground. slams it on. Keys go flying everywhere. All right, he's a big guy. I mean, he comes around the desk. By this point, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm running for my life. I'm down the stairs.
Handle escalated anger.
Yeah, like
I thought this was a customer thing. This is the dealership personnel thing.
Yeah, this was personnel, and the reason I'm telling this story is to articulate how de-escalation was handled back then and how it needs to be handled now. So I'm literally hiding in the back of the dealership next to the garbage can, smoking a cigarette, and people are like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No,
I'm not.
That bill's out to kill me." Like, and I'm sitting there having this conversation, and I feel this big arm, this hand come over my shoulder, and sure as shit, it's Bill, and I'm so sorry, and this is how they de-escalated anger back there. He pulls out a wad of $100 bills and apologizes with $300.
No problem, Bill.
And that was it. No problem. And you went back to work. All right. Now, of course, the tower's losing their mind. They're laughing their asses off.
Oh, yeah.
All right. It's just like, so like culture, and that's why I'm bringing this up, needs to fundamentally change for us to be able to de-escalate anger.
Yeah, because they walked you right into that one, didn't they?
They did 100%.
And they knew exactly what was going to happen. You're not a green pea no more.
Oh, that was hazing.
That was hazing. But no, like I know we're having some fun. We're joking a little bit about this, but no, this is a real thing. I actually did have a situation with about almost 6-9 months into the business where I had someone steal a car from me. I had a gentleman walk in, clean cut, suit, everything. Wanted to test drive this Navigator. Nothing seemed out of the norm. Filled out my Foursquare. Took a copy of his driver's license. Like, I was curious about that. What the hell was that? Like a safety measure of some kind? Well, I copied the driver's license. Well, it was fake. It was like, how the hell is that making anything safe right now?
Well, don't you know the Xeroxes back then could tell? It said scan the whole thing.
I guess that's what I thought happened. I don't know. And we got onto the highway. Shortly, he pulled right off the highway, pulled out a gun, and said, "Get out." I wasn't going to argue.
Right.
I got
Imagine
out. I forgot my Nokia brick phone, at the dealership. So I walked.
Didn't have a weapon.
Didn't have, no. I had to walk 8.5 miles on the highway.
No, that was the
finally
Nokia.
get
The Nokia brick phone was the weapon.
Yeah, at that point in time, those were, right? And I got to the dealership, and they tried to blame the whole situation on me. What'd you do? How'd that happen? Why would you allow that to happen? I'm like, are you out? So anyways.
The dude had a gun.
He had a gun.
But I will tell you, though, I worked at the dealership for 9 months before that happened. No one taught me, like, in this situation, you need to do this, right?
Because it was so unlikely to ever happen.
Yeah,
but when it does, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a very big deal.
Very big
right.
Well, and I think it comes down to, like, are we teaching anybody to de-escalate a situation? And look, we're talking about extreme situations. Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that don't go that far.
Yeah.
It's meeting expectations, right?
Sure.
That's probably it.
Well, I mean,
everything.
I could see for management particularly there being a reason to have a course on, handling people that are upset. That's really the dealer. That's really the managers and the dealer's job. That's their a part of their function is to be able to handle those customers. So I can certainly see that course being needed.
Sure.
I never got one either. I mean, of course, I'm the worst, right? Because my answer to the angry customer: get the fuck off my showroom. You're breathing my air. So that's probably not going to de-escalate the situation. So I guess you could say I needed it the most.
Right. Maybe still. HR, give us a clue here.
Right, but I mean, that you can't do that anymore, and you've got to have people in the dealership that can handle that situation and take that down a notch, because these days you don't know what might come of that. I mean, back then it was just, hey, but there might be a fight out in front. Yeah. Now the guy comes back with a freaking automatic weapon, and where are you? Yeah.
Well, and that's a good point. Like, how do you recognize, signs of something escalating?
Yeah. Looking at the guy who drove the car into the showroom.
Oh, that recent Subaru dealership.
I don't think you could have saw that. I mean, you could have prevented it by not doing the thing that made the guy mad in the first place, But no one saw this guy he's going to drive the car back. And no one even thought
actually,
about that.
he said he was going to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he
I
actually
didn't get that
announced
part.
it. He actually announced it to the whole dealership as he walked out. Hence the reason why I think their cell phones were turned on when this got recorded.
Let's see if he really does it. Everybody, they turned this into a sport. Next thing you know, there's an over and under on this deal.
I'm pretty sure bets were happening.
That's the car business. That's what they're taking odds right now. What do you think? Yeah.
Well, okay, so
It's a human behavior petri dish.
Exactly. Let's see this. What will it take? What do we have to do to get
this
somebody
guy
to drive a car through the showroom today?
I swear somebody put a spiff out there on that.
Yes, no, they did. Oh my God. Okay, we know it's getting too easy to get them in the trunk of the car now.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to take this up a notch. We got to take this game to a new
we
level.
get him to drive a car through the windshield. But
that's wrong.
So let's talk
Hey,
about
don't do this at home.
Yeah.
Do not try this stuff at home.
Don't.
You're sitting with three guys at a table.
Don't do it. Just don't.
You know, I was never in retail, but I've dealt with some angry customers before.
Yeah.
And usually it's
Well, you're on the other end of that. You're dealing with an angry car dealer.
right.
That's
physical
fun.
work.
That's a really good
I'm
time.
traumatized. Nothing bothers me. I forgot what am I saying? Yeah, I've taken a lot of classes.
Well, okay, so let's talk about why. I actually have to believe there's a reason why we actually never really kind of thought about this in the industry, right? Is you need to be empathetic to others first. All right, to even want to go down this path of teaching and coaching your staff to de-escalate a situation. And I mean, guys, I'm the first one to admit, like there was no empathy in me whatsoever. I mean, I grew up in the car business, which was check your shit at the door. All right, look up and get back to work. Right. All right, and that's it, right? In fact, it wasn't until I had an advisor, a lady actually who worked for me, and one year for Christmas, she crochets a pillow that said, "Shut the fuck up and get back to work." And
I love her. Can we hire her now?
and that for me was was an aha moment of I clearly said this so many times on a regular basis that someone thought it would be funny to crochet it onto a pillow. And that's actually was the pivotal moment for me to actually go, wait a second, maybe I'm not doing this the right way.
I wonder about that. Let's say that's a good rabbit hole to go down.
Let's do it.
I mean, because there's this whole notion of being this. I hear it a lot, a servant leader, and I'm gonna. I mean, I can understand. It. Maybe that certain people today, I guess, cannot handle it. But
Handle what? Handle what?
Just handle the I mean,
crack of a whip.
Right. You mean let's really the level of empathy in the car business versus just between personnel, because you know how you got fired at Ron Kraft Chevrolet.
You were the lowest on the totem pole?
No. Ron Kraft had a picture about this high, about this wide of the Grim Reaper. He just shut that shit on your desk.
That was it?
That was it.
Your way of
You're
knowing
done.
you were done that month?
Right. That's how you got fired there. So, I mean, it was actually a sport. So, I came up in that, and it didn't bother. It never really occurred to even have it bother me.
Me neither.
And today, it seems to like you can drop a pin could drop and it doesn't just drop the right way, and somebody's bothered by it. That's the other extreme, right? Okay, granted, Kraft's deal was extreme. Okay, and we had no empathy for anybody who got fired. I'm sure some of those people are traumatized for getting fired. In the car business, you get fired like that's the only time I got a vacation.
Yeah.
All right.
In between jobs.
Yes. I mean, so the reality is there's these two extremes, and I'm not too sure it's not better to have the other. If you're going to pick an extreme, I'll pick the extreme to have to go through fire.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have had come through that, because I think it prepared me for everything else that I needed today. And I think a lot of these people need this preparedness. A lot of these salespeople coming up today need this preparedness. You need to understand that the world doesn't owe you a damn thing. Not a damn thing. You got to go work for it.
And
sometimes
I agree.
it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. But to make it harder than it has to be, that might be a little. I could see where I could dial that back because I was making it harder than it have to be. But I mean, because
you're right. You can still execute that
Right.
with being empathetic
To a degree,
You know, like I'm not telling anybody out there to not stop cracking the whip. I mean, it's necessary at times, you know, to rally up the troops and say, like, we need to march forward on this. No matter what's going on, we need to march forward, right? But there are still. I mean, I found that there are empathetic ways to do that. But also, it was just. You know what it was for me as I went down kind of this path was understanding why my staff might be upset. And then that course went into trying to understand why my customers got upset. And, you know, one of the things I found almost consistent with both of them was the lack of communication. Yeah. Almost every single angry customer, or almost, I'm not saying all, but a large percentage of angry customers or angry staff were angry because they weren't receiving the communication necessary. And that's how, and then for me, that was a pivotal moment of understanding, like, before anybody even gets angry, how do I get in front of it? I need to over communicate the shit out of everything, both staff and customers.
One of the smartest GMs I ever worked with is a guy named Jerry Hicks at Timmer Chevrolet in Pasadena. And, you know, one thing Jerry would always tell me, and I still agree with it today, is equally informed people seldom disagree.
That's a good one.
And so if that person doesn't agree with you, it's because they don't have the same information or all the information you have, and you vice versa. So first of all, get all the information out. Everybody get up to speed. And then at that point, in that moment, once everybody has all the information, you're likely to much more likely to find common ground.
When do you give all that information? If you're Grant Cardone and Ely guy, remember that? Give them all the information up front. So where do you do that? Is that in the?
I mean, are you talking about like on a deal, or you?
Well, I mean, just in that conversation, right? Because I think we started out one conversation about controlling the sale, and how do you do that? And so. In context of a process, what are you doing?
I think you know, the first thing you got to do, if it's a customer and they're angry, the first thing you got to do is, well, okay, tell me why you're angry. Give me your side of the story. Let me get equally informed, and you start, right? And then now, if you would allow that, then you got to move in. Now allow me to explain my side, and let me get through it. And the hardest part for you and for the customer is to let the person talk. Get it all out. You're going to have this urge to want to interrupt. Don't. Right? Let it go. Get it all the way out. Now that we're both all the information's on the table. Now let's talk about the areas where we had conflict, and try to work it out. Right? Bob Pagan, when I worked for Bob, he was one of the best. But he's like an old granddad, right? I mean, you just couldn't be mad at him, right? There are people like that. Yeah. There are people that can, you know them, that can tell you to fuck off, and you're like kind of happy about it,
or you giggle.
Yeah. There are people like that, and so there's part of your demeanor, part of the something that you're not even taught. You just have it, and some people don't.
Well, and that's what the world would call your EQ, your emotional intelligence. You can pick up on those key things, and you know how to talk to certain people and not talk to other people. And some people you can say fuck off to, and it's okay, But that's having that emotional intelligence, which I think if we're kind of breaking these down, like as a dealership, what do you need to do to kind of do that? It's like you do need to be emotionally intelligent. A good business owner, I think, needs to be emotionally intelligent. I'm not saying you don't crack the whip or any of that stuff. You just need to be. Second thing is, I think you need a plan. All right, if tensions continue to escalate, all right, how do you handle it? Who handles it? And there needs to be a process, I think, in place. Do you guys agree?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the process is, there has to be a process. I just don't know how do you quantify that process?
Well,
right?
It sounds like what you
just said. Let the person who's mad get it off their chest first. Then let the person who they're mad at, or the person who's trying to de-escalate the situation, get their information out. That should be your process, right?
Well, and I agree with you. Actually, I've read recently, one of the most effective ways to de-escalate is to document what they're angry about. Because what they feel like is that now they've been heard.
Right.
Regardless if you agree with it or not. It actually doesn't really matter, right? It's just let them talk and you just write whatever they're saying. No emotion into it, right? Now what their concern is out and it's physically on a piece of paper. And I guess next steps can be taken from there.
Yeah, I mean that's part of letting them get their part out. You get your part out, right? I mean, I think that's that part of it is not taught in the car business. No. And should be. I'd agree with it. I would fully support that as a training program for management in a car dealership. I think it's helpful.
Yeah, anybody that deals with the public face to face, that would be
dealing with your employees.
Right, yeah.
I mean realistically, I think dealing with the employees is better than the other one. I mean,
it kind of goes both ways.
Other than that, you get shut the fuck up, get back to work.
Right. He got a pillow for it.
Yeah.
A pillow. I think I still have that somewhere. Actually, I should take a picture of it. Okay,
so your wife. No, I didn't.
God,
what did I do?
We got to use the soundboard.
I got to use a soundboard.
Nice. I just got labeled.
Yeah. Oh man, that's the clip that's not going to make it to the tidbits. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. But let's take it to like the next level of that, and this is preparing for the worst case scenario, right? Look, as a dealership, we do this, all right? If you're a dealership or even a business of any kind and you're in Tornado Alley, guess what? You have clearly, I just saw in your building, I saw a clear place of, hey, this is where you go if this situation happens, right? We do that with fire as well. If this happens, this is where you go, right? And, look, I think today, and I hate to say it, but we need to have a plan for an active shooter situation. It's something that happens. It's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And dude just drove a car through your showroom floor. And it wouldn't be no big deal to bring a weapon in and start firing. I mean, again, if you're, like I said, if you're in Texas, you don't bring a gun, bring some guns. Because if you're shooting on my showroom floor, you're most likely getting shot back at.
Well, actually, I mean, that's even a good point too. So there are states out there, and I would love to get your guys' thoughts on this. And I actually am not quite sure exactly what my opinion is on it yet. But yeah, there are many states out there where conceal or carry is open. There's no required permits or anything like that. As a business owner, do you let your staff carry?
No, we don't.
For me, I can't say no because I do.
Okay.
So
I like this. We got two variations here.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not a fan of Texas current law of open carry with no license and no learning.
I'm the same. Tennessee's got the same thing, and I have issues with it.
I'm out on that. If you're a weapon's not a toy. You need to go learn how to use it, how to clean it, how to. Maybe
so in Texas, you can wear a sidearm on your.
In Texas,
you don't require.
In Texas, I can bring
Tennessee's the same way.
In Texas, I can put my AR on my chest and walk through the grocery store. I mean, that's just how. I mean, and I'm not going to tell. I don't agree. I think you should have to go through some sort of some training on the law and how to fire an firearm and proficiency with a firearm and how to clean and take care of your firearm before you get one.
Correct.
You just don't go down and get one.
No, I agree with you because I'm going back to that that Subaru dealership where the guy drove the car through. If that happened in Texas, I'm not 100% convinced that guy would actually still be alive.
No, somebody would have shot him for sure. He would because he was
an angry person.
Well,
yes,
it's not just that, but
he didn't hurt anybody. Now it could have 100%.
You just threatened me with a deadly weapon. That car became a deadly weapon the minute it started coming through the showroom floor.
Yep.
So you would have been. I think in Texas, in my showroom, you would. I likely would have been the one shooting. I mean, that's just. I'll just be real. I mean, I don't know what's getting out of that car.
100%. I don't disagree with you.
Ran into
in that state. Yes, I don't disagree.
Mall the other day, and drove the truck in, and he didn't get out, and there were cops on him, and they shot him.
That's what happens
because of that reason.
Right. I don't know what's getting out. I mean, if you're silly enough to drive a car through the showroom through my showroom, there's nothing. I have to assume you're silly enough to come out with a weapon.
For sure.
Yes. So having
my employees. I care about these people that are here working for me,
sure.
and therefore, I'll take care of it.
Well, and there's it's funny that this conversation's come up because I recently spoke with a company that's actually out of Texas, funny enough, who does provide kind of on-site training for dealerships, not
for active shooters.
For active shooters, but that is at the end of it. Really, the whole point, guys, is, and I think if you're out there watching and listening to this, is to really do train on how to de-escalate a situation before this ever happens. Yeah. But of course, be prepared for anything like that. It is interesting to hear, and I think from a business owner perspective, both of you guys have different, do I let my team carry? Do I not let them carry? Like it's
well. And let me clarify. Nobody's carrying my business that doesn't have a license and hasn't been trained. Okay, you don't just go buy a gun and drop into the store. That's not the way that works.
Sure.
I mean, you've got to have a license. I've got my license to carry. You have, and to be in here, you got to have your license to carry, and it shows that you're responsible enough to carry a gun. And you need to. I mean, if there are any legislators who ever listen to this, please put some sort of license in your state. I'm not just going down and buying a gun is just not. It's not cool.
100% with you.
It's not cool. I don't care who you are. And the NRA can just get pissed at me if they want to. I don't care about that either. Fact of the matter is that you need to know how to handle a firearm before you get a firearm. That's a responsibility. It is not a right or a right.
Well,
it's a right to bear arms. It should have said the right to bear arms responsibly.
The right to learn how to bear arms.
And 100%.
Well, and kind of just continue to go on that planning and understanding, what can and cannot be done. Again, I bring it back even in that situation or in any, tornado or fire or something like that. I thought back like would it be easy for me to communicate to all of my staff like that?
Instantaneously?
I didn't have a process for that, and I don't think most companies
I bet
do.
most dealers don't. If somebody came in, they don't. I bet no one in that store knows where to go in an active shooter situation.
Yeah,
I doubt most companies, dealerships, whatever, even discuss it. I mean, we can't carry firearms, but we've really never discussed what if someone does bring in a weapon, and what are we going to do? We should, but I've never thought of it until this podcast. See how valuable this is?
No, well, look. I mean, look. No one wants to ever have to be in that situation, and most people don't even necessarily want to talk about it. But I think there's a level of preparation that anybody out there watching, listening right now needs to have.
Hey, you know what might be a good question to ask our audience? How many of you guys have active shooter?
Definitely put that
programs.
I'd like to hear who has and who hasn't.
I would certainly love to hear that.
And then also just how are you communicating with everybody? If you have to get a message out to your entire company like that, and I'm not just saying active shooter, but it could be weather situation, it could be anything.
It should be on that device that you carry around.
Do you have a means right now to actively communicate to the entire?
Go to Dealercast.com. Click on the
love to hear what you guys do
link and email us and just tell us what camera are we on.
Just look at one of them. Just look at one of them.
I don't know. So, but just send us an email. Tell us how you either do it or would recommend to do it,
or have experience in, or have done it
in another business, maybe in another even car dealership. I think that is valuable for the audience. Because this is a real thing. When you are crazy enough to walk into a school and start shooting little kids,
you can walk into a dealership.
It's all on the table now. It's all on the table now.
And I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation, and I think what you guys have heard through this conversation is that we don't necessarily have the answers, actually, but the purpose of today's podcast was to open and start the conversation.
Yeah.
And
it makes you think about it.
It makes you think about it. I mean, I can already tell Rob's going to think about it, maybe talk to some of his staff later this week. It's just like, hey, what is the plan? What is the case? For everybody out there watching, listening, if you're enjoying this content and you'd like to see additional content, Larry, where can they go to see more podcasts like this?
TheDealercast.com. TheDealercast.com. Go there. Yeah, shoot us if you want to hear. If you got a topic, shoot us an email. You can subscribe there. You can listen to the latest episode. But this is an important topic. I think that
a conversation needs to be had.
This conversation needs to be had. I mean, realistically, NADA. If you're watching this,
yeah, that's true.
This is something that NADA really should take up to. I think it's just good. It's good for every store. None of us want to see the tragedy where some dealership got attacked for whatever reason, and a lot of people lost their lives because they weren't prepared. I don't think anybody wants to.
Or they just weren't taught how to de-escalate something.
Right.
And when you're dealing with money,
yeah, you can get passionate for sure.
100%. Hey, for everybody out there watching, listening, we really appreciate you. We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this topic today. One of the biggest compliments you can ever give us is to share the show. If you have a manager or a colleague or somebody that needs to hear some part of today's conversation, it means so much to us when you share the show. Guys, thanks so much for being a part of this conversation. This has been a great one. And thank you for everybody out there who's watching and listening.
thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Old Guys Know Shit podcast with your host, Old Guys Who Know Shit. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.